Chamber Door presents Obituaries. God, I'm tired tonight. First patrol of the night done. It made me feel a bit better about the end of the last shift. I took this hulking mass of a torch this time and pointed it where I thought I saw the woman. I'm not one to judge the grieving process of a family, but it was a cardboard cutout. A cardboard cutout of the person who died next to her grave. The waving was definitely the tree branch, but that explains why I thought I saw someone. I'm just not sure which is more odd now. Anyway, I'm back, so it obviously didn't freak me out too badly. I definitely can't turn down the money that, for some reason, is better than any other security job I've done. I used to handle the worst of humanity on club doors. Booze loves to bring out our id. It's the easiest job I've had. I just can't let my imagination run wild. It's funny, I've met some terrifying people in this line of work. When I told some of them about last night, they relayed a few stories about working in old hotels and hospitals where they had similar experiences. One of them, John, absolute statue of a bloke. I've never seen him scared. Told me he was on the night shift at some student accommodation in town. Sat in front of a control room for 14-hour stints. If the shift had been particularly dull, which it often was, he'd fall asleep while staring at the cameras. Now, number 73 was a dome camera, fixed on a ceiling and pointed down a dark hallway that led to a former cold store. A part of the building made redundant once it had become accommodation. Sometimes, when it got to around 2 or 3 in the morning, John would notice that the camera started shaking violently, as if someone were trying to remove it. Whenever it happened, he would immediately go and check to see if anyone was up to no good. He'd grab his torch and go right through the building to this hallway where the lights no longer worked. John's a tall guy, maybe 6'8". He reiterated throughout this story that the hallway ceiling was ridiculously high, and he couldn't reach the camera even with a ladder. Dome cameras are very sturdy, and wouldn't easily be knocked or shaken, especially indoors. He'd scan the entire hallway and the disused cold store before heading back to the office, not knowing what to think about it and being too tired to work it out. He'd nod off in his chair, making sure he woke up an hour or two before the office workers came in so he could check over the place and footage. Anyone who hasn't worked security would call that negligence, but when you've worked night shifts for longer than you should, it happens. Everything would be fine until he began to look through camera 73. He would see himself inspecting the hallway, going back to the office, and then black. Just a continuous black screen. He'd fast forward to see if it was a glitch in the system, and an hour later, the camera turned on again. This time it showed the back of John, head down asleep at his desk, as if someone were holding the camera behind him. His eyes began to nervously dart around as he told me this. Not wanting to let his boss or colleagues know that he was asleep on the job, he kept it to himself, and was determined that on his next shift, he would stay awake and catch whoever was pulling such a cruel prank on him. Whoever was doing this also had to be able to access his office, which only staff members could, so he wasn't sure who to trust. Then the next night came. The staff cleared out at 6 like they usually did. John goes around every office, storage room and potential hiding spot to sniff out this prankster. Nothing. He figures it could also be one of the students who have somehow got their hands on a set of keys. So he watches those cameras like a bird of prey for 8 straight hours. People coming and going from the laundrette, a group of residents taking drinks down to the common room to play a few games of pool and smoke until the early hours, but not a soul approached that hallway. There was also no way they were getting in through the cold store. The old delivery doors were heavily chained and padlocked. 6 coffees later, 3 a.m. John's eyes are practically taped open, waiting for the slightest movement, his torch in hand, and every door between him and the hallway unlocked so he could be there in seconds to give this joker what for. It wobbles. He sprints out of the control room and yanks through every door like the building is crumbling behind him. Bursting into the hallway, he beams his torchlight into the void, heckling whoever this was to come forward and stop being a coward. He stands there motionless. He hesitated and relit his cigarette as he struggled to tell me this. He said, "You know when you wake up from a deep sleep, and you're neither dreaming nor awake yet? That's what that hallway felt like." One of the most menacing faces I've ever seen turned into a quivering mess as he took another drag, the tears nearly dousing his cigarette. The lad's alright. I was tired. It wasn't really there. And if it was, it was an owl. I didn't want to probe, considering the state he was in. I just asked if he was going to continue to work there. Blankly staring into the car park before us, he shook his head and briskly handed me a photograph from his back pocket. Stubbing out his smoke and pacing back to his car. "Keep it. I don't want to look at it anymore." It was a screenshot of camera 73. You could tell from the details burnt into the video feed and a unique little scratch at the bottom of the camera that looked like a star. Only now it wasn't in the hallway. It's the side profile of a man's face. Asleep. John's face. In what looks to be his bedroom. With someone lying next to him. You can't make their face out underneath the filthy, matted long black hair. "John, what is..." He was glaring at me from the open window of the driver's seat. "I was alone that night," he interrupted in a feeble defence, closing the window and descending into a flood of tears as he started the car and drove away. I should check on him soon. I don't think he really has any family. Moving on, let's get our favourite journal back out. I must really have been out of it last night. The number of pages look like they've doubled. Straight from the second entry. Ollie Geller. Born May 1st, 1981, in Nottingham, UK to Rhys and Tracy Geller. Ollie expressed passion in most forms of artistic endeavours. Writing video game reviews in his teenage years He went on to attend drama school in his 20s and learned bass guitar in his 30s. An empathetic and likeable young man taken before his time. His manner of passing may have particular relevance. Relevance to what? Why are these so fucking weird? Briefly before his disappearance in 2016, he abandoned his job to join an organisation known as the Hidden Gateway, a secluded group operating out of St Agnes in the Isles of Scilly, one of the southernmost points of the United Kingdom. A notebook recovered from his bunk room may yet reveal what became of him there. Quote, "Like I was going to spend the rest of my life in a thankless IT job. That's right. The culmination of all my inspiration, passion and creativity is clearing download files off 50-year-old Heather's PC because she doesn't understand how storage works. No, we really weren't meant for this. A morning commute of people staring at their smartphones, everyone documenting their lives, observing others do the same through 30-second snapshots of fakeness instead of actually experiencing the world with their own senses. Food, friends, therapy, sex, professional networking, all at the touch of an app. QR codes to read a fucking restaurant menu. We're abhorrently brimming with so much sickly ego as a species that we've convinced ourselves we're more advanced than we've ever been. Our ancestors built their own houses, mastered navigation to traverse the world, understood nature. Greek fire, Roman concrete, terra preta, just some of their inventions we still cannot comprehend. The irony is that if you were transported back to their time with that cursed device in your hand, they'd look at you as if you were some sort of advanced alien, when the reality is, you're probably dumber than them. But you're not entirely to blame. Like me, you're a product of the system. You can pass this all off as the ramblings of another hippie, but it's objectively true. You went to school and were taught a diluted curriculum of little real-world value. You entered a job that compels you to spend all of your time in counterproductive meetings and huddles. All because you need pieces of paper that permit you to buy things you should be producing yourself. But look at me, projecting my perception of society onto a fictional you through a personal diary. How insignificant and egocentric of me. I shouldn't be concerned with that world anymore. I found something new. Something that may be worth it. I was bored in that drone job, browsing local clubs and societal events to battle the perpetually lonely life I'd come to inhabit. Work, made dinner, video games, bed. I was trapped in that cycle for years and had absolutely no idea how to break it. It was taking a mental toll on me as I became more subdued around people, absorbed in my own world and ignoring theirs, as the dullness of life bore into my skin. I tried a few things. Writers' clubs were full of people who thought their work was like nothing the world had seen before and wanted to grate your ears about it for 2 hours. Night classes in sociology introduced me to young women a bit too fascinated by serial killers, and tabletop game clubs, well, that was just occupied by people a bit too much like me. I needed something that would bring joy back into my life. On a spiritual level. So when I finally landed on yoga sessions and met Aisha, you could say I found it in the most cliché way imaginable. She struck a chord with me. when we were in the midst of a post-session chat about Alma Camus and existentialism. "You know, we're all just alone together," she said as she whirled the wooden stirrer around her vending machine tea. "We have so many identical thoughts, impulses and desires, yet are convinced we're so utterly unique. We're always complaining about being misunderstood, but also lie to ourselves and everyone around us every day by keeping up a persona." I listened in complete agreement as she went on. "I don't have the energy to keep my mask on anymore. I'm exhausted from being told what to be and perform for an audience that doesn't want me to acknowledge them, or that it is just a performance. I found a group, and I'm going to join them." I won't lie and say that I wasn't captivated by her beautiful melancholy. I immediately retorted, "What group?" She retrieved a pamphlet from her gin bag and slid it across the table. "They're called The Hidden Gateway. They're not some wellness cults or anything like that. They facilitate experiments in mental communication. The direct transference of ideas and concepts that we find so difficult to articulate." "Like psychics," I replied with a hint of cynicism. "Well, yes, but no," she continued. "It's not a bunch of cabaret types wearing purple clothing with a deck of tarot. They have esteemed academics and scientists running these experiments. Apparently in one of them, a shape was conveyed from one person to another in their dreams. When the person who sent the shape asked the receiver what it was the next day, they replied it wasn't a shape, and took out some pencil and paper to draw an angel in flames. The conductors and participants were equally dumbfounded." "And you read this on one of those pamphlets?" I couldn't help but be dubious. "No, smart-ass, they put some of their stuff on YouTube. Have a look if you don't believe me. But I'm seeing out my week's notice and leaving for St. Agnes on Monday." "For how long?" I spoke in an obviously disheartened tone. "For good. I told you I'm done. And if you feel the same way, a friendly face would be a welcome tag-along." I don't know what possessed me to act so rashly, but she was right. What else did I have going for me? I was done with it all too. I didn't even give my notice. I called my office the next morning and told them to stuff it as I'd found a better offer. I didn't even need to contact this hidden gateway, as Aisha had already done so and told them I was coming along too. So after a week of final self-indulgence, it was a simple flight and boat ride to my new, isolated home. I know what you're thinking. I just willingly gave myself to a potentially dangerous cult for no reason. Maybe the excitement of putting my life at risk was infinitely more appealing than my humdrum existence. And I gave myself the excuse that I was looking out for Aisha. But my word, I'm glad I did. Our initiation was a 3-day fast to remove artificial toxins from our bodies. This was particularly hellish for me, as I was still reveling in my newfound freedom, and may have had a few drinks during our trip. They partnered us up with someone who had been there for a while. We didn't get the opportunity to question it, but I'm assuming it's because I know Aisha, and any experiment would have led to unreliable results. So that was it. My new link, as they called them, in the form of a middle-aged Danish man named Soren. It started with small exercises, writing down our biggest hopes and fears, then presenting them to each other. Vast conversations about our personal lives, who we were, I believe this was to build empathy with one another, maybe feel a connection like you would with a family member. We shared dorms with our links, surrounded by a strange juxtaposition of cobbled stone wall and flat-pack furniture. Our meals are served on a long table in the field outside to encourage a daily connection to nature, regardless of the weather. It's amazing how quickly you can become used to eating soup in a blistering wind. Some members talk to each other, but most seem constantly fixated on their mental connection with their link, serving each other certain foods at mealtimes to see if they get their request right, or writing down certain words that pop into their heads to see if the other was thinking about it. I only recognised just how small my world had become when we were assigned to retrieve some supplies that had been shipped to St. Agnes. We weren't situated in the village itself, but a small boat trip along the coast, in our little bubble of a hamlet. Soren and I beached the boat and grabbed the equipment needed to ferry the supplies. The locals either retreated into their homes or shot us disdainful looks. As we met the courier, the shopkeeper facilitating the exchange thanked him for waiting, then turned to us and said, "I've no interest in being civil with you. Get your stuff and go." This of course took me aback. On our return trip I asked Soren, what was that about? He shrugged it off and said, "People don't like groups like us. It scares them. The unknown and all that. Probably think we're into sacrifices." We both laughed and waved back at the villagers watching us leave. Upon our return, I wanted to tell Aisha about it. I asked her link where I could find her, and was told that she had confined herself to her bunk room, and apparently was in no need of a partner. I knocked on her door and, after a few moments, realised it was slightly ajar and let myself in. Her room was a continuous mural of angels engulfed in fire, gazing upwards and giving the impression that they were listening to something. "Aisha, are you okay?" It didn't feel like she was ignoring me, but rather compelled by something to remain in that paint-soaked trance she found herself in. I walked around to meet her face and was perturbed by the manner in which her eyes jutted at the ceiling. Her concentration almost looked painful, as tears cascaded down her cheeks, splitting the dried cracks of paint. "Listen, Holly. You can hear them." By this point, my receptive approach to our new home had begun to turn cynical, and I was genuinely concerned for the mental health of my friend. "Your link says you're not taking part in the experiment anymore." I tried to ease her into conversation. For several uneasy minutes, I watched the muscles in her neck strain to keep her head tilted upward. Eventually, her gaze dropped to mine. "Our connection is not between us. It is through him, the Marquis. We speak to each other, and he speaks to us. He can take the chosen ones, you and I, with him. We need only give ourselves." I turned to leave and inform the staff of Aisha's condition, but was stunned by what came next from her mouth. "When you were 4, you'd wake up in your bedroom, and a drawing would be on your wall. Your parents would blame you for it, but you hated it too, because things would happen until you scrubbed it off. It kept coming back. For a year, didn't it? I couldn't bring myself to respond. I'd never told anyone about that. I just let my family believe it was me. Your fingers sometimes felt like they were burning. Night after night, you'd sit awake by your bedroom window, staring at the sky long past the point of exhaustion. Your parents didn't know what it was, but you did. Do you remember the drawing, Holly? I trembled like that same terrified child, my eyes beginning to sting with tears. A euphoric smirk spread across Aisha's face as she slowly tilted her head back toward the ceiling. Don't be afraid. He is an angel, after all. I left Aisha and marched back to my bunk room. I didn't want anyone to see me in that vulnerable infant state. The following day, I was making my way to the breakfast table, hoping Aisha wouldn't be there, when Soren approached me. Seems your friend has agreed to some private experiments, Ollie. She's moved into one of the facility rooms. I couldn't care less after how much she freaked me out. Sounds like progress. I responded with brevity and kept a steady pace. He didn't follow, and I felt a sudden jolt to my head. Yes, it is. For both of you. In a disoriented shock, I turned back to look at Soren as if he had thrown something at me, trying to figure out if I had actually heard the words, or they had entered my thoughts. Already walking away from me toward the gym, I had no intention of seeming unstable, given recent events. I wolfed down a serving of toast, poached eggs and feta cheese, then quickly made my way back to my bunk room, where I would await evening sessions with Soren, and avoid any awkward questions about Aisha. We no longer spoke throughout our exercises, and instead attempted to gather information exclusively through the link. Certain things could be disregarded as educated guesses or luck. Occasionally we'd read the lyrics to a song or a historical event one of us were thinking of. None of it could be considered undeniable telepathy. There were always variables. It was the feeling that came with it. At the end of the session, Soren protested, "Hold on, I'm getting a shape from you." I thought he was mocking some of the other candidates and laughed it off. No, seriously, stop for a second. He observed me, then ran toward my desk for a pencil and paper, manically sketching out something that must have been clear as day to him. There it was. The drawing from my childhood. My immediate reaction was unfiltered rage. I grabbed him by the collar and demanded to know who he'd been speaking to and what him and Aisha were up to with this hideous joke. He looked just as confused as me. I released him and stumbled back into my chair with my head in my hands. He readjusted his shirt in irritation, grunting his words. I've clearly picked up on something personal. We'll call it for today. But whatever this thing is with Aisha, you need to resolve it. I rubbed my face with my palms and glared at the floor. It's fine. I'll get over it. Sorry about that. See you tomorrow. With that, I was left ruminating on exactly what I believed to be reality or fiction, until I drifted off. I flinched awake at 11:47 p.m. like a bucket of cold water had been thrown over me. I don't think I dreamt, but adrenaline was coursing through my body, and there was no way I was going back to sleep. I pretty much leapt out of bed and turned on the light, heading to my little desk to do some journaling as I figured it maybe would help me come to terms with things. I didn't know where to begin, looking around the room as if I could find the words in there, and above my pillow, carved into the cobbled stone. We always see the movie cliché of the protagonist terrified in a cold sweat. But have you ever actually felt it? Have you ever been so afraid that your body acts as though you have a fever? It's equal parts sickly and paralysing, reducing you to the last thoughts of a fleeing mouse as the owl bears down. I snapped out of it, and the adrenaline came flooding back. I didn't care about waking up the entire dormitory. I banged on Soren's door so hard I practically put my fist through it. At the first slit of light through its opening, I barged in and pinned him to his bed by the throat. "Why the fuck are you doing this? Why?" Two of the staff rushed in to drag me off. Soren sat up, gasping for breath, and as they pulled me out of the room, he gave me a smirk. I felt that jolt again. "Good night, brother. Travel well." Before I knew it, I was in a spiritualist retreat version of solitary confinement. They separated me from the rest of the group and placed me in one of the facility rooms. I get 3 square meals a day, with supervised breaks to the gym and toilet. They were even so kind as to grant me my journal to document my thoughts and dreams. I don't tell them half of what I dream of. I don't like thinking about it more than I have to. Aisha's toying with me, I know she is. That's why they put me in one of these rooms, to be close enough that they can study her effects on me. And when I'm nothing more than a blubbering mess, they can say it was a mental breakdown to the police and cheerfully cart me off to some forgotten hole they put people like me in. But I won't crack. It's either me or her, and I'll fight till the bitter end. It won't go away, and I can't stop thinking about it, so fine. You fucking subjugators can confirm your vile experiment is working. Every night is the same dream. My head brushes against hanging grapevines as I walk through an efflorescent garden. I look up to the canopy, hosting a kaleidoscopic vibrance of exotic flowers. I feel whole. Something takes my hand. I can't make out who it is. It's blurry. But it looks like a young man. My fingers begin to burn, and he reassures me I'll be okay. I'll be as one with him in Elysium. Then I wake up. I can't move for a while, and I feel like I'm being observed. I mean, of course I am, but not by you, nutjobs. Something else. That's why you gave me nothing to do in here, isn't it? So I can't take my mind off this crap. Well, that's the last thing you're getting out of me. I'm going to relive every possible good memory I have. When I was 5, playing on the swing in the family garden and daydreaming about running over clouds, when I was asked in school to give a speech out of all the kids in that self-esteem program, that time I dived into the sea on that boat trip with my grandmother. I will be the most grateful and optimistic person I can be as long as I'm here. Your attempts to pierce and control my thoughts will be abortive. I'll even start fucking yoga again. The nightmares, the trauma, all met with indifference. You think people like me are weak, easy to hurt. I'll make this such a waste of your time and resources that you'll see no choice but to get rid of me. One way or the other. So, fast forward 5 days and I'm not doing so great. I thought I was beating the impulses, but to be perfectly candid, I really miss chamomile tea. I think the only way I could be a calmer person than I am right now is with some chamomile tea. Maybe some shortbread to go with it. Speak again soon, Noblords. Okay, that was a cheap shot. Sending in that creepy woman to ask me those weird questions. I mean, her script could have been better, asking me if I ever spoke to someone that wasn't there growing up. Like we don't all do that throughout our lives. But that jet black mass of hair, tangled in dried dirt. And I don't know what Hollywood makeup artist you have working here, but that gaunt, sickly face. Nice touch. Not sure what you were trying to achieve with that exaggerated ring she kept rubbing. Maybe I haven't watched enough Derren Brown to understand this level of bullshit. Oh well, just stand in Lucifer himself next time. At this point it's laughable to think you nearly got me. She's with him. The dreams have started again. In the garden. It's harrowing. Soothing. She speaks for him. She says I never have to be lonely again. Never have to feel pain. The flames are soothing. They can take me with them. They know a hidden way. He is the key. He is our angel. No, it's not happening again, not this time. You can't give 2 surreal cliffhangers in a row, it just pisses off the audience. I'm going to scour these bookshelves, I'll tip everything on here, I will find the rest of these stories. Not that one. Not that one. Loose pages. There could be in anything here. Screw it. Let's try the Country Life magazines. 1967 edition. Oh, hello, stupidly attractive woman being interviewed about horses. A car that's worth more than my lifetime wages. A nice photo of the Denby family in front of their absolute castle. Pictured left to right, Colin, Kate, Joseph, Margaret, Graham. Well, isn't that a strange coincidence? If that's the same Margaret, she looks like she aged well. She could practically be in her early 40s. Her hair is still jet black, with a fringe covering most of her face. There's a ring on her right hand. Alright, cut the cameras wherever they are. This is obviously some new guy hazing. That vicar is pulling my leg, trying to spook me for his own amusement. If you can hear me, fuck you. I'm sleeping for the rest of the shift, and when I see you in the morning, you best start praying. This fictional audio play was written and created by Will Akers. Full credits and source links are available in the episode notes. Any resemblance to real persons, living or dead, or to actual events is purely coincidental. Thank you for listening.